Hello everyone, welcome to Cloud Delight YouTube channel. This is the place where we learn technology. AWS has a lot of security services which they offer as managed services which we can use diligently. So we will start to learn one by one. Today we will look details around AWS config. Now, the next thing that comes up to our mind is what does AWS config do? So, here we take an example. Let's say we have an AWS account and we will have a lot of resources that we create as per requirements, and there is an ask from customer how many resources are running in an entire AWS account in a particular region. So, AWS Config acts like a management tool to assess, audit, evaluate configurations of resources and also provides a resource inventory. It actually continually assess, monitor and record resource configuration changes to simplify change management. Audit and evaluate compliance of resources configurations with organization's policy on continuous basis. Simplify operational troubleshooting by correlating configurational changes to particular events in your account. Now, how exactly does this work? AWS config, as I mentioned, is a region specific resource service which acts as a managed service, and it actually manage, evaluate and simplify operational troubleshooting, compliance and auditing, change management and security monitoring as well. We have practicals for all these things, some of the examples and use cases as well, which will actually show up how exactly AWS config works. Now, there are certain features of AWS config which we will have to know. The configuration history of AWS resources. The configuration history is like we have made some changes to the configuration of any of the resources, S3 bucket or EC2 instance, anything. AWS config records details of changes of your AWS resources to provide you configuration history. You can use the management console API or CLI to obtain the details of what resources configuration look like at a point in the past. AWS config will also automatically deliver a configuration history file to AWS S3 bucket which you we specify. Now, configuration history of software, like AWS config helps you record software configuration changes within AWS EC2 instances and servers running on premises as well. With AWS config, you gain the visibility into operating system configuration, system level updates, installed application, network configuration, and many more. AWS config also provides a history of operating system and system level configuration changes alongside infrastructure configuration changes recorded for EC2 instance. Resource relationships tracking. AWS config discovers, maps, and tracks AWS resource relationships in your account. For example, if a new EC2 security group is associated with EC2 instance, AWS config record the updated configuration of both EC2 security group and the EC2 instance. Configurable and customizable rules. AWS config provides you a pre-built rules evaluating the configurations of your cloud resources as well as software within the managed instances, including EC2 and servers running on premises before and after provisioning. You can utilize pre-built rules to evaluate your AWS resource configuration and configuration changes, or create your own custom rules on Lambda that define your internal best practices and guidelines for resource configurations. Using AWS config, you can assess your resource configuration and resource changes for compliance against built-in or custom rules. Conformance packs. This helps us manage compliance of your AWS configuration at scale using common framework and packaging model. Conformance packs are integrated with AWS organization. This is useful if you must quickly establish a common baseline for resource configuration policy and best practices across multiple accounts in your organization in a scalable and efficient way. This also provides a compliance course, and compliance course is the percentage based score that helps you quickly discern the level to which your resources are compliant for a set of requirements that are captured within the scope of conformance packs. A compliance score is calculated based on number of rule to resource combination that are compliant within the scope of conformance pack. Multi-account, multi-region data aggregation. This is the capability of AWS config that enables centralized auditing and governance. It gives you an enterprise-wide view of AWS config rule compliance status. This aggregated dashboard on AWS config will display the total count of non-compliant rules across your organization. You can drill down to view details about the resource that are violating the rule. Cloud governance dashboards is also available. AWS Config provides you a visual dashboard to quickly spot non-compliant resources and take action appropriately. IT administrators, security experts, compliance officers can see shared resources. And with AWS config, you will be able to integrate these many services in AWS, organization, cloud trail, ITSM and ITOM software, security hub, audit manager, systems manager, firewall manager, EC2 dedicated host, load balancers. So this covers the AWS config theory part. Until we meet again, thank you so much. Stay tuned for the hands-on session on AWS config. Thank you.